It was bound to happen eventually. An individual who was born biologically male, who identifies as a transgender woman, was arrested after taking photos of other women inside the changing room at a Target in Ammon, Idaho. The sheriff's office showed up at the store and were told by an adult female that a person was taking pictures of her while she was trying on clothes inside of a changing room. The woman saw a person reaching over the wall with a cell phone to take the pictures. The victim proceeded to confront the subject, who ran from the store. Detectives interviewed witnesses, looked at security footage, and that brought them to 43-year-old Sean Patrick Smith, who also identifies as a transgender female named Shauna Patricia Smith. After interviewing Smith, she was taken into custody and booked for one felony count of voyeurism. Is the anti-trans right now going to blame this on the trans community? What should we be thinking about this? Now, other people are mentioning that it is possible that this is conservatives committing fraud merely to defame a minority group, which they have said, Lewis, they would do. We've reported on numerous groups saying they would send in people claiming to be transgender deliberately to do this stuff. We don't know that yet, though.
Well, who's dumb enough to get hit with a felony charge just to appease Republicans?
Yeah.
I just want to ask one detail. Was this a female changing room? A lot of these are unisex at stores.
This is a question I don't have the answer to, and that is exactly what crossed my mind. I do not know the answer to that. And the other question that I think is very relevant, Lewis, is the headlines are transgender woman takes pictures of women in a changing room. Is the transgender identity of the person even a legitimate part of the headline, particularly if, as Lewis suggests, often these changing rooms, these fitting rooms, are unisex? They're just enclosed and whatever. Is it newsworthy in the sense that it has any bearing whatsoever on who's allowed to go in which bathroom?
So let's just say it is a female-only changing room.
Yeah.
The point of the story for me is that here are the laws we have against this type of thing.
Right.
Someone violated the law. They got arrested and charged with a felony, and that's how it works. That's
Right.
how it happens. Why do we need these specific laws?
Right. In other words, this was not enabled in any way by those laws. This is someone who was breaking the law regardless of the genitals they were born with or the identity that they have today in terms of their gender. The problem is, Lewis, that number one, some people will look at one incident and say, oh, that proves a law needs to be changed. Tell me what other laws you've wanted to put into place as a so-called small government conservative who says the government should do the least necessary based on one incident. That's number one. And number two, some people have been emailing me saying, David, it's going to surface that this was not really a transgender woman and that is going to then be a win for the anti-trans community. Here's the problem. This is going to be spun as a sort of win for the anti-trans community no matter what, because the right-wing response, if this person was really transgender and went into the bathroom to take pictures of women, into the fitting room to take pictures of women, the right-wingers would say, see, we told you that letting trans people use the bathroom that they identify with was going to cause a problem. And the right-wing response, if this was somebody not really transgender, but, quote, pretending to be, in order to go into the fitting room and take pictures, the anti-trans right will say, see, we told you that people who aren't really trans would just pretend to in order to go take pictures. The right, the anti-trans right, can spin this as I told you so no matter what.
They can and they will, but let's just bring up the point I made and say that regardless of your sex or sexual identity, you can still sneak into any bathroom. You can still sneak into any changing room. You can still use your camera. So the laws work. They worked here. Well, what do we need to change?
Especially when you consider that most clothing stores have just individual stalls for these fitting rooms, and there is no gender. There's no gender at any point that needs to be designated or divided or anything like that.